The ugly political brawl in Canberra has continued in the wake of yesterday's personal explanation by embattled MP Craig Thomson. The opposition believes Mr Thomson lied to Parliament when he suggested he was set up with prostitutes in a bid to destroy his political career. The Coalition asked for the matter to be sent to the Powerful Privileges Committee, and a short time ago the House of Representatives agreed. There's a separate move for the lesser punishment of a censure, and I'll speak to Andrew Wilkie in a moment about whether he'll back that. But it's easy to lose sight of the human side of this debate, and as political editor Heather Hewitt reports, the only doctor in the House is deeply worried about Craig Thomson's health.
The member's version of events A is not supported by the evidence of a single witness. B is explicitly contradicted by one person, Mr Bolana, whom he named.
Manager of Opposition Business will resume his seat.
He wants this parliament to be judge, jury and executioner.
The opposition was always going to have another crack at suspended Labor MP Craig Thomson. It was just a question of how. And that became clear this afternoon when the manager of opposition business, Christopher Pyne, accused the member for De Bell of misleading the House in his long speech of defence yesterday. In a strange twist, Christopher Pyne asked the Deputy Speaker, Anna Burke, to refer a letter of complaint to the exiled Speaker, Peter Slipper, in a bid to have the speech referred to the Privileges Committee. The writing was on the wall this morning when Tony Abbott called an early news conference.
This is someone who has failed to explain his own conduct. This is someone who has been found by Fair Work Australia to have misused almost $500,000 worth of low-paid workers' money.
And so began another day in the federal parliament, where Craig Thomson was the focus.
Isn't it true that both he and the Prime Minister have been prepared to act as judge and jury over the member for De Bell in every respect other than refusing to accept his vote in the parliament?
Those opposite want this parliament to be a kangaroo court.
It was left to the acting Prime Minister, Wayne Swan, to try to counter the opposition attacks. Julia Gillard is overseas for a NATO summit on Afghanistan, but she was still contributing to the debate from afar, making it clear Craig Thomson wasn't going to be welcomed back into the Labor fold anytime soon.
Look, I've made a call and I'm not intending to revisit it, but I also put the view to you today, exactly as I would have if we were in Australia last week or the week before. It's not appropriate for Parliament to set itself up as judge and jury.
As for Craig Thomson's claims yesterday that Fair Work Australia had been biased in its investigations into the allegations of misuse of union funds.
Look, I'm not going to engage in commentary about Mr Thomson's statement. Fair Work Australia is an independent agency doing its job.
Many enemies.
But according to Mr Thomson yesterday, the inquiry had been compromised because one of his accusers, HSU National Secretary Cathy Jackson, was in a close relationship with Fair Work Australia's Vice President Michael Lawler. He also suggested links to the Liberal Party, but Tony Abbott today moved to distance himself, saying he hadn't spoken to Mr Lawler in years.
Sure, I appointed Michael Lawler to the Industrial Relations Commission a dozen years back, or whenever it was, but he's now a senior officer of Fair Work Australia, which is Julia Gillard's creation.
Has the Minister asked his department to investigate the member for De Bell's claim that the Deputy President of Fair Work Australia, Mr Michael Lawler, interfered in the Fair Work Australia inquiry into Health Services Union?
There has been no evidence of misconduct provided to me in the manner in which you are raising, about the matter which you are raising.
The opposition will keep up its relentless campaign against Craig Thomson, but politicians on all sides are starting to get feedback from their electorates that the public has had enough of this whole sorry saga. Even within Liberal ranks, there was a bit of discomfort as they listened to Craig Thomson's speech in Parliament yesterday, with some now worrying the opposition could be pushing him over the edge.
The stress you could see in the man's face was transparently obvious. That was, he's under immense emotional pressure.
Mal Washer is a West Australian Liberal MP who's also a doctor. In this case, he feels torn.
I went and spoke to Craig about a week ago publicly in the House, just to see how he's going. And the reason is we don't want people to hurt themselves. I mean, I don't care. It's not my business whether they're guilty, innocent or whatever. But there is a duty of care here to look after one another a little bit. I mean, you can have all the, you know, outright combative stuff, and that's part of the nature of politics, but behind the scenes we should be asking how are people going. You know, that's what makes us human.
Do you think matters have perhaps gone too far now with Craig Thomson? This is also part of the nature of minority government. Yes, look, but again, I think here you've got to look at both sides of politics. I mean, there's no one party to blame for Craig's situation. Our party sees this as an opportunity to give the Labor Party some grief. But it's a very unfortunate, I think, thing to witness from my point of view. You know, it's unfortunate that we've got this issue at hand because I think it demeans the whole Parliament to a level, you know. Do you worry about Craig Thomson's state of mental health at the moment? Yeah, I do. In fact, I don't think it's any secret. The whip was up here, and the shadow whip. I think you saw him just before they left. And I mentioned to Joel, the whip. I said, "Look, I think you've got a duty of care on your side of politics to make sure that he's not at risk of self-harm. He's under tremendous pressure. I mean, I think I'm a tough guy. I don't think I could have handled it as, you know, I don't think I could handle that, quite frankly. And so you want to sort of make sure that, you know, we don't want to see people do something dreadful to themselves, and that has happened in this House before. He's got a young child and a wife, so we've got to take all those things into consideration." Senior Labor figures say they are keeping a close eye on Craig Thomson, but they know the fallout from this scandal is going to drag on, amid warnings in caucus that the government won't sit idly by and the opposition should make sure its own house is in order. The independents remain unhappy that the reputation of Parliament has been sullied, and late today Rob Oakeshott flagged plans to move a censure motion against Craig Thomson.
Leadership in explaining the next steps in the process is what is being sought by many. Personally, I remain frankly angry and let down by the member for Dobell.
He gave a statement that was an exercise in self-justification.
I won't be supportive of it because I believe it prejudges, in this case the member for Dobell, prior to due process.
A vote on the motion is yet to be scheduled.
Political editor Heather Hewitt.